Hello YouTube, hello Twitch. It's that time of year again, that's right. Love is in the air. And Blizzard don't give a shit about your love. Instead, they want you to be playing Hearthstone as the new Miniset drops on the 14th, which is potentially tomorrow or today, depending on how quickly I can get this up. And all the cards have been revealed, and I just wanted to do a quick, rundown of some of the cards that are coming out and my opinion on some of them. So, first and foremost, there's a lot of recurring mechanics. Like, Death Knight has got some old mechanics that are coming back in for this mini set, kind of just to balance them up compared to the other classes, which I think is really cool. And some of the other classes have also got some older mechanics, like Dredge, for example. So, Death Knight picks up its first colossal minion, Frost Queen Sindragosa. One blood, one frost rune, which is very interesting. There's not many blood frost rune archetypes going out there. In fact, there's very few like rainbow or mixed ones in general going out there. 7 mana, colossal. After an enemy minion's frozen, destroy it. It's an undead dragon, and the wings have rush. Freeze any character damaged by this minion. I think this is a really cool card. It is, however, going to be hugely hamstrung by the fact that it's 1 red, or 1 blood, 1 frost. Sorry, I'm so used to just calling blue red. There's not an archetype out there that really uses it, and the unfortunate thing is this is kind of like, a control-y based card, and does the Frost deck really want it? I wouldn't say so. Would the Blood Death Knight want it? Possibly. However, it would definitely want its 3 Blood Rune cards over this. So unless there's going to be some support coming out in the future for these mixed Blood Frost decks, I think Sindragosa is going to see very little play. 1 star. Construct Quarter, destroy a friendly minion, summon a 4/5 undead with Rush. Unbelievable card, 5 stars. It's phenomenal. So there's a card in the game right now, and I'm so bad with names, but on Death Knight they have a transmute a minion into a 4/5 undead with Rush. I think it's a 2 mana card. That has been seeing some play in the Undead Death Knight, which in my absence has risen to kind of like at least tier 1 on the ladder. A lot of people playing it's got a decent win rate. This is going to slot straight into that deck. And not only that, it doesn't transform, it destroys. So it's going to generate corpses for you to feed your other, corpse enablers within that deck. This is going to push that deck even higher than it already was. Great card. Then Rhymescale Siren. It's an undead Naga, 3 mana, 2/3. If you cast 3 spells while holding this, freeze 3 random enemy minions. 1 Frost Rune on it. It's going to see 0 play. 1 star. Why? Well, they've already got a weapon that throws multiple minions in the Frost archetype, and it's just not played at all. Maybe eventually there'll be some shift towards like a Frost control hybrid with the Blood Death Knight deck, in which case Rhymescale Siren and Sindragosa maybe will see action in their own deck. But the other thing is, you might want to combine, Sindragosa with something like Frostworm Fury. I know the mana doesn't quite work, but maybe try and cheat them both for a full board clear. Unfortunately, that Frost spell is 3 Frost Runes as well, so you can't play it with Sindragosa. I'd be surprised, though, in the future if there wasn't some more support for these mixed runes. So I'd give Siren, watch this space is what I'll say. I still don't think it's particularly good for the cost, though. 3 mana, 2/3. You have to cast 3 spells while holding it. That's a pretty big, downside to the card. You're almost certainly not playing it on 3. I'd kind of like to see this bumped up a little bit in both mana cost and in stats. But anyway, we'll see how it performs. It's not even out yet. Demon Hunter, Fellscale Evoker. If you've cast 3 spells while holding this, summon a different demon from your deck. So Demon Naga, it's a 6 mana 5/7. So not particularly great stats for the cost, but if you can cheat out, one of these huge demons, then your quid's in. And you won't pull out that demon. It has to be different. So you'll have another use of Fellscale Evoker, assuming you put 2 copies in your deck, later on. Unfortunately, big demons have never really been a thing for Demon Hunters, and I don't expect this to, change the meta in that direction. That being said, I'm going to give it 2 stars. If there is some support for it, this card will make that deck. And you know what? I might try out the big Demon Hunter. I've always wanted it to work. So I'll definitely give it a damn good college try again. Calamity's Grasp, Death Rattle on a 1 mana 1/2 weapon, and a random Outcast card to your hand. 1 star. The Outcast cards right now are garbage, but kind of in the same sense of Fellscale Evoker. They seem to be pushing in this set an Outcast deck. It's not there yet. In fact, I don't even know where the tier list is for the Outcast deck. I imagine it's like non-existent. If there are some good Outcast cards for the future, this might see some play, but even then, I'm not sure it will still see play in that deck, which is why I'll give this 1 star over the Evoker, which I'll give 2, because I don't think this will make the Outcast deck anyway. And then Shambling Chow, Rush, Death Rattle, deal 4 damage to your hero. So 1 mana, 2/3. Shout back to some of the old sets. I really like that with this mini set. So this is, harking back to the old Chow, which... Oh god, what was old Chow? Was it that it healed your opponent or something? I can't remember old Chow anymore. It was such a cornerstone of the game as well. Zombie Chow, right? You know what? What was your effect exactly, Zombie Chow? I want to see the power creep. Yeah, restore 5 health to the enemy hero. So this was a power creep on Zombie Chow. I like this card. I'm going to give it... I'm going to give this a tentative 3 stars. Now, I've seen other reviewers reviewing this at a lower star rating, and I kind of agree. If you're looking at the now, Shambling Chow would probably go into some sort of tempo aggro Demon Hunter deck, and there's not really an aggro Demon Hunter deck out there at the moment. There are some, though, like there's like the weapon-based one where you try and, play everything from your hand and refill it with your... God, what the fuck's this card called? I have my collection here with me, so let me just check this out to be more accurate. Where are you, weapon? Magnifying Glaive, that's the one I was thinking of. So the deck where you try and empty your hand and then glaive back up to, 3 cards in your hand. I definitely think Shambling Chow will make it into that deck, because you don't really care about your health at that point. All you care about is rushing your opponent's health down faster. I will say that for the cost, if you imagine this as like a 1 mana spell instead, that does 2 direct damage, that's not great value. But in the deck where, you're just vomiting cards out, Demon Hunter doesn't have access to that many, damaging spells. Pretty big early game tempo. I think people will use this. Then into Druidland. 6 mana, Life from Death. A nature druid spell. If you infuse 6 times... Sorry, it's draw 3 cards. If you infuse 6 times, it costs 1 instead. 1 mana, draw 3. Kel Supreme. It's insane. I think this is really hard to rate. I'm going to give this one another 3 stars as well. So, this is a weird one. The card is really good. There is an aggro Demon Hunter archetype out there. Demon Hunter Druid archetype out there already. It's aggro Druid. And they wouldn't mind a refill card, and this is the refill card. They could quite easily make the infuse cost as well as 6 minions dying over, let's say, like 2 or 3 turns. Potentially, even Ramp Druid want this card as well, because they can infuse pretty easily when you consider that you can get the whelps and stuff. That deck isn't bereft of minions. However, I'm not sure Life and Death will make either of those decks. Possibly the aggro Druid, but I don't think Ramp Druid will run this over some of the other cards they have. Namely, and again, let me go to my collection so I get the right name of the goddamn card. The Miracle Growth. I'm not sure it's significantly... I'm comparing 8 mana draw 3 cards to potentially 1 mana draw 3 cards. But in Ramp Druid... It's going to take you some time to get to the infused 6 on Ramp Druid, so I don't think it's going to be in that deck. Maybe a different archetype of a token-based one instead. So I'll say watch this space, but card has the potential to be 5 stars. I think right now it's probably like somewhere between like 3 and 4. Rake, 1 mana spell. Give your hero +2 attack this turn, then deal damage equal to your hero's attack to a minion. 1 star. Could be decent in the future. It would require some sort of attacking-based druid deck where you can actually, put stats on your hero. I'm thinking of stuff like, was it called Gonk or something along those lines? The dinosaur. Maybe Rake would make that deck, but unfortunately, because it can't go to the face, it would only be really good for removing a taunt. The deck archetype isn't there right now. I don't see it being out there in the near future either. But who knows? And then Death Beetle. This card is kind of spooky. It's a 6 mana 6/6 with taunt, and it has mana thirst 11. Now, and when you mana thirst it, it gains +4/+4 and charge. It's an undead beast as well. It has dual typing. This card frightens the hell out of me for many reasons. Firstly, I was hoping that Guff was going to be rotated out because I kind of hate Guff. However, and Guff was meant to rotate out in like the next expansion, so I think that was like April time, right? The only way right now for Druid to reach more than 10 mana crystals is Guff. This means that either Guff is going to go into core, which I actually wouldn't be surprised about, or there's going to be a new way for Druid to go beyond 10 mana crystals. I'm hoping it's the latter, because, I mean, Druid, Guff is just almost a set card in most of the decks for the class, with the exception of the aggro deck. And I think this card would just slot into... It could just slot into so many potential archetypes with Guff. Now, I've seen people rating this low because, and I kind of agree to this to some extent, you don't really want a 10/10 charger in Ramp Druid because the weakness of Ramp Druid is getting to your ramp stage and getting to the higher cost where you can start cheating stuff out. Do you really care to have, push 10 to the face quickly, or, take that extra turn and just grind them down that way? However, the deck that kind of worries me with the Death Beetle is the Mill Druid, where there are some decks that, will try and run that one down in terms of the life total that they have, and you can sometimes just stay alive through some of the fatigue, and Death Beetle might push it over the edge. I'm going to give it tentatively 3 stars, but as I said, there's going to be some sort of one-turn kill that comes up with this Death Beetle. I'm certain of it. Even just copying the card, the class cheats so much anyway. It's going to be a nightmare. I hate the card. I already hate it. I don't think it's 5 stars. I hate it though. Just the idea of copying this card with a manipulator or something and having 3 10/10s on the board. It with charge as well. It sends shivers down my spine. Okay, Hunter. Faithful Companion, 7 mana, discover a beast from your deck and summon it. Mana thirst 10, also summon a copy of it. 1 star. This will see very little play. I get the benefit of this. You're going to pull out your King Crush and ram it into their face for 16 damage. However, there's already other cards that can cheat out Crush. Namely, in the Beast Hunter archetype, you have the... God, me and names just do not go together. The Dredger. Who's the Dredger? Ashzaran Saber, who puts a Sunken Saber on the bottom of the deck. Cool fact, not a Dredger at all. He just puts it on the bottom of your deck. I don't see this card overtaking that one. And that's really the only deck it would just slot into straight away. So I think it will see very little play. But I'm certain someone will come up with some nerdy one-turn kill again with King Crush, so watch out for it. Trinket Tracker. Battle Cry, draw a 1-cost spell. I'm looking right now in Hunter, your 1-cost spells. You have Arcane Shot, the Barb Nets, Ricochet Shot, Tracking, Urchin Spines, and Wound Prey. Wow, what a series of cards. 1 star. In theory, it's not a bad card. I could see... Actually, you know what? I'm going to bump it. Give it 2 stars. It's another card that I'm going to say watch out for. I don't think it slots into a deck that's currently out there. However, I could easily see some sort of, I mean, if they really push forward this arcane hunter build where you're shooting people with spells, there's a world where that slots in there just to draw one of the cards. 1 mana, draw a card. Not terrible. Not awe-inspiring. And possibly not even good enough for that archetype. And then finally, we have Zombies. 2 mana, secret. After your opponent plays a minion, summon 4 1/1 zombies to attack it. This harks back to the card which I think was just called Bees in Druid, which summoned 4 1/1 zombies and attacked a minion. I'm going to give this secret 3 stars. I think this is one of the better Hunter secrets. It's just a better version of Snipe. Snipe did see some play. It's also not mentioned that you could get this as an upgraded secret now via Tavish? Beastalker Tavish. I got there eventually. And I believe this becomes 4 2/2s then. Very good to infuse minions with. I will say right now, the secret package for Hunter is not absolutely fantastic, but not terrible. If it gets a little bit more support, conceivably this would be like a mainstay in that package. So again, it's probably one to watch out for, but I could see it just about slotting into certain archetypes. If some brave soul out there is still trying to play the Quest Hunter, you might see it in Quest Hunter. We'll have to wait and see. Alright. Mage. Spectral Trainee, 3 mana, 1/4. After you cast a spell, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. 1 star. It's the same principle as Brain. The 3 mana where you cast a spell, it hits every minion for 2 damage. His name has escaped me, and I'm not going to remember what he's called. But the elemental who does that was a good card. I don't think we're living in a world right now where there's enough wide board. Well, I guess... Maybe I wasn't living in the world where there are enough wide boards. Maybe there are now with the Undead Demon Hunter. I just feel like the stats are not good enough for the effect on it. It's more towards like a control mage. I don't think the archetype really exists. People might try this card. I guess one of the other things, it was called like Firebringer, right? I think that was just 2 damage to enemy heroes. Was it called Firebringer? Am I misremembering? Not Astalor. Mage. I don't remember what he's called. But I can't remember if that targeted minions or, like, the face as well. I believe, like, a part of that, though, was just, clipping people down with spells. And that would just add to the extra damage on it. Because this just says minions, I don't think it's going to see too much play. Whirlweaver, 3 mana, 4/3. Battlecry, if you cast a spell on your last turn, discover an elemental. Right, let's have another look in my collection. Before I give this the rating that I think it's going to get. What elementals do we have in Mage? We have Amplified Snow Flurry, Prismatic Elemental, Submerged Space Rock, Arcane Luminary, Sanctum Chandler, I forgot this was even a card, and Vex Alice. Now, the effect on it is not too hard, the condition, but I wouldn't say you're pulling from a great pool of elementals, so I'm going to give this 1 star right now. Could be one to look out for in the future if an elemental mage comes about, but it feels very... I think it's a bit underwhelming, so to speak. And then finally we have Tear Reality. 4 mana, add 2 random mage spells from your past to your hand. They cost 2 less. Mean value, 5 mean values. But the card is probably 1 star. I will 100% play a deck with Tear Reality in it. I love the idea of pulling mage spells out of other expansions that you can no longer, play it on standard. There's some disgusting things you could potentially get with it. You might get a box of Yogg-Saron. Just live for those dreams. However, typically when people moan about this on the HS subreddits a lot, there's a lot of power creep in the game. The old cards typically aren't as good as the new cards. Therefore, Tear Reality is probably going to add 2 worse spells to your deck than on average in the current expansion, with no synergy to your deck, but they cost 2 less. Hey, it's a fun card though, I will give it that. Right, Paladin. Now here's where the juices get flowing. The Curator, 5 mana 4/6. Hark back to the Curator. Taunt, if your deck has no neutral cards, draw a minion of each minion type. 5 stars. This is going to be such a fun card. I love the callback to the Curator, which used to pull a minion out of each separate type. It's now in Paladin. Pure, nice thing for Paladin. And more importantly, there's a lot of good archetypes in Paladin right now, or types, or classes, or whatever you want to call them. I always forget exactly what the tribe thing is. I think it's just called a tribe name. And they've just added a new one just to skip ahead. Undead Knight of the Dead. A 3 mana 5/5. Battlecry deal 5 damage to your hero. Mana Thirst 7, it restores 5 health to your hero instead. Also 5 stars. There is an aggro paladin out there. This card will slot right into the aggro paladin deck. And what's nice about this card is you either draw it early and play it early, and you've cheated out, a 5/5 worth of stats on turn 3. Who cares about the 5 damage to your face? You're more interested in rushing down your opponent. However, if you get to the end game, this could stabilize you instead. Very nice card. I said it's an undead card, so Curator can pull it out. But Paladin has a lot of access to just really good tribes. For example, you have the mechs from Mech Paladin. You could pull out a Seafloor Savior, something along those lines. Pretty good, just jack of all trades. There are some decent enough dragons in the pack. I could see there being some really cool Paladin mechanic based around the Curator. And I will definitely try and build a deck around this. Oh, the other thing I actually completely forgot to mention, one of the best things you could pull out with it, Light Ray. It's both an elemental and a beast. You could pull out both copies of your Light Ray with the Curator. That is insane. Insane value. Then finally we have Goldwing, 4 mana 3/5 Mech Dragon, Rush. Battlecry, if you're holding a mech, gain Wind Fury. 1 star. Mech Dragon doesn't exist. There is no other synergy, I believe, with the Mech Dragon. I think you could put an archetype together which combines a bit of the Mech Paladin package and the Dragon Paladin package. Unfortunately, neither of those packages is tier 1 right now, so there's no reason why putting Goldwing into it will suddenly make it better. It's going to be pretty bad. Next one to get your juices flowing. This is Priest. 4 mana removal. Cannibalize. Destroy a minion. Restore its health to all friendly characters. Assassinate is crying in the corner. We keep pushing forwards the boundaries of destruction of a single minion on a spell. Cannibalize is cheaper than Assassinate was, and it comes with an upside. I'm going to give this though 1 star. It's more of the Control Priest mechanic. However, right now I don't think that slots into the best Control Priest deck, which is Quest Priest. Quest Priest isn't particularly great right now anyway. I think it's a good card. It's just unfortunate that there's just better things out there right now. However, during rotations and stuff, maybe revisit this. This might actually be one of your better options then. Mindseer. 1 mana, deal 2 damage to a minion. If it dies, deal 3 damage to the enemy hero. This is aggressive. Very, very aggressive. It's also in a shadow spell, by the way. They seem to be pushing this Shadow Priest archetype. So is Cannibalize. This is 5 stars as well. Now, there is a undead aggro priest deck out there. And this and the next card we're going to reveal, or you can see it on the screen right now, but talk about fit directly into that deck, and I think it's going to push it up a tier. 1 mana, deal 2 damage, and then potentially do 3 to the face is extremely aggressive. You can remove an opponent minion in the early game, just hit them in the face. I think this aggro deck is going to be super, super scary. Combined with the other card, Rotting Necromancer, 4 mana, 5/4 undead, Battlecry Dredge. If it's an undead, deal 5 damage to the enemy hero. Again, more damage to your opponent's face. I think if you're doing Undead Priest, there's a pretty damn good chance you're going to find an undead in your bottom 3 cards. It's going to run a lot more minions. It's going to be a minion-based deck. And I think this might be one of the better aggro decks out there. It will compete with aggro Druid, probably. And I think it could honestly just trump it with some of the removal plus some of the minions. A deck I'm looking forward to playing, some sort of like Undead Shadow Priest. I like the direction this is going with Priest. I've always been one of the haters of Priest. They just make the game last like an hour. Make Priest faster, you've got me interested. Alright, Rogue. We have the Stitch Creation, a 3 mana 1/1 undead. Combo, gain +2/+2, infuse 2, gain +3/+3, and Mana Thirst 8, gain 4/4. Really weird card. I was watching one of the discussions from Trump, Hearthstone Trump. This is not the former president of the United States. And I think he says this best, and I can't really, improve on it. This will go into some sort of tempo rogue deck. However, is there a tempo rogue deck out there? Not really. So I think I'm going to give it a 2 stars, but probably right now it's more like a 1 star. I kind of am considering right now what would be your best play. Maybe you can do some things with the quests. I'm not sure what to think. Obviously, if you can get the infusion off and you can combo it, which is not too hard with Rogue, that's a 3 mana 6/6. That's a really good card. But compared to some of the cheating they did in the past with the Miracle Rogue and what you can do on the Thief package, I'm not sure it's good enough, weirdly. But we'll have to see. If in the future you get more, support for this tempo rogue build, then maybe, just maybe, this card will be fantastic. I think it's a really good card. You know what? I'm actually going to put it to 3. Put it to 3. Not 2. 2 is too harsh. People will definitely test this out. And if something is going to make this tempo rogue deck work, it will probably be this card. Because as I said, a 3 mana 6/6 is really, really scary. And you can imagine, playing a turn 1, turn 2 minion. 0 mana spell, because, Rogue is flush with 0 mana spells. Then you're getting the combo off on it. And hey, bingo bango, 3 mana 6/6. Opponent cries. Jolly Roger, 1 mana 1/3 undead pirate. After your hero attacks, summon a 1/1 undead pirate. Again, this could go into some sort of tempo deck. So maybe someone will try Pirate Rogue with both these cards in it. And I say someone, I will probably try it at some point. It's pretty good stats for the cost. Removing a 1/3 minion on turn 1 is pretty hard. Rogue comes pre-equipped with a weapon. I say pre-equipped. Your button gives you a weapon. So if the worst comes to worst, you push your button, hit someone, it's effectively giving you 1 mana for 2/3 of stats. Not the worst thing. There's some decent weapons out there for Rogue as well. It's honestly one to watch. I'm going to give this one 2 stars as well. I don't think the deck is there just yet, but if it gets some support, this will be definitely some sort of tempo, maybe piratey-based rogue deck, and it will definitely be played in it. Then finally, Ransack. 0 mana, deal 1 damage to a minion. If you played a card from another class this turn, deal 4 instead. Pretty good value, You always have to be careful with 0 mana cards and how you rate them, because there's always things you can do with them. Especially on Rogue when they have a lot of things that, as you can see here, with combo mechanics. However, unfortunately for Rogue, the Thief Rogue package was nerfed. Ransack would go into that package, and therefore I'm going to give it a 1 star. Even then, I'm not entirely certain you would play it in that deck. It targets just a minion specifically. Sure, it could be good with some sort of maybe Miracle come Thief Rogue, but I don't think that's a thing at all. Shaman, or Shaman. Frostfin Chomper, 3 mana 2/3 Murloc. Battlecry, if you played an elemental last turn, summon 3 1/1 Murlocs. It's an elemental and a Murloc itself. It's also 1 star. What is this card? Like, it's understated. Sure, if you get the 3 1/1s off, it's effectively a 3 mana 5/6. But you have to play both elemental. Well, I'd say both elementals and Murlocs. You'd have to put an elemental in your Murloc deck. And just thinking about it, like, what elementals is even in there here right now for Shaman? Like, you have Snowfall Guardian, Baron, what's his name? Baron Glacier, Alakir, Earth Revenant, which you're probably not going to play, Fire Element. Okay, there's actually quite a few. But just like, off the top of my head, I can't think of a deck where you just put this in. The closest I can see is adding, like, maybe putting Menacing Nimbus and Sleepbreaker into some sort of Murloc Shaman deck. But is the juice worth the squeeze at that point, putting those 2 cards into there to give you the 3 mana 5/6? I'm not convinced. Cold Storage, freeze a minion, add a copy of it to your hand, 1 mana Frost Spell. Interesting card. Obviously, the comparison immediately comes to... Let me just remove the elemental tag from my list. Wind Chill, that's the name of the card, which is freeze a minion and draw a card. The question then comes is drawing a card better than adding a copy of it to your hand? Oh, sorry, adding a copy of a card that your opponent has. It could also be your card as well. You could freeze your own minion to get another copy of it. I think because of those shenanigans that you could potentially copy your own cards in your deck. Like, for example, in Evolve, imagine getting another Null off Cold Storage, just immediately evolving it. I think that's where Cold Storage could see some play. I'm going to give it 3 stars. Surprising 3 stars. I think basically anywhere you saw Wind Chill, you could see this card. And you might see both of them, who knows. And then finally, Blazing Transmutation. 1 mana Fire Spell. Choose a minion. Discover one that costs 1 more to transform it into. This is insane. 5 stars. I would give this 6 stars if I could out of 5. This is the best card of this expansion. This is crazy. Evolved Shaman was strong the last time I played, and I was looking up some of the win percentages. It's still really strong. That deck is just insane. You can have some really disgusting early turns where, you cheat out the Null, evolve it with the Muck Pools, and then you have, like, some sort of, 10 mana 8/8 that has a Death Rattle summoning an 8/8, and your opponent cries. Now, the one weakness of that Evolved Shaman and that specific interaction was sometimes you would find a Null or something, and your opponent would be like, haha, you got a Null, you got a 5/4 instead, and you'd cry because, you basically wanted to cheat early on to give you the guaranteed dub. Blazing Transmutation, you can pick the card you get now. So no longer will you get Nulls, instead you can get insane cards. For example, just to scroll into the future, you can get Thaddeus Monstrosity, which makes your odd card cost 1, and it swaps each turn to, even, then odd, then odd, then even. And you can cheat even more cards out. Shaman will become the master of cheating, it looks like. And Blazing Transmutation will enable that. Unbelievably good card. Like, removing the randomness away from Evolve. Oh, it seems good. Alright, Warlock. Suspicious Peddler. 2 mana, 2/3 Battlecry, discover a 1-cost card. If your opponent guesses your choice, they get a copy. Only suspicious thing about this Peddler is how bad it is. 1 star. This harks back to the old Peddler card, who I can't remember its prefix, which was, I think, a 2 mana 2/2 discover a 1-cost card. You gained 1 health, but your opponent could get the card as well. That's not worth it. The juice is not worth the squeeze here. This will see 0 play. Nothing's impossible. 2 mana. Give all friendly demons and Murlocs Death Rattle. Summon a 2/2 Implock. 5 stars. Really, really good for Imp Warlock. It's just going to slot straight into that deck. Is it called Wrath of the Forest, or the Nature of the Forest? I could check this before I get it wrong. In Druid, where it gives you Treants instead, I believe it's 4 mana, right? Soul of the Forest, there we go. That's a 4 mana, give your minion Death Rattle, summon a 2/2 Treant. This is 2 mana cheaper, and the downside to it is the prefix of Demons and Murlocs. Which, if you're running, Implock, hey, what does Implock have a lot of? Oh, that's right, Demons. Also, where's Murlocular? I'm pretty certain Murlocular is a Murloc. So that's the one non-demon card that sometimes is around in that deck. And even then it targets it. That's a really good, a good synergy of 2 different tribes. It has a deck it'll just slot straight into. This will be a menace to all decks out there. Already, Imp Warlock, pretty good still. From the last expansion, it didn't really go down too much. And I think this will see it, rise back to the top. And then finally, Plague Eruption, 3 mana, deal 2 damage to all minions. If you discard a card this game, deal 1 more. 1 star. Discard Warlock, I tried a variant of it before the Great Hearthstone Depression. And it was terrible. It was pretty terrible. I don't think Discard Warlock is there at all. I don't think this is what's going to make it, get there. And the discard synergy right now in Warlock is pretty aggressive. It's like, minions that are pretty well statted for the cost, if you can discard it, that is. There's not really a control element on this, and it hits your own minions, so I just think this is bad. Sure, if there's going to be a Control Warlock in the future, and Control Warlock was obviously an archetype, and still is somewhat of an archetype, not as strong as it used to be in its heyday, and it has some discard synergy in the control package, then Plague Eruption maybe we'll see some sort of play. So again, I give it 1 star, but tentatively could be better. However, I think even in the best case scenarios, 3 mana deal 3 to all minions, it's not that... It's not that good. Compared to something, like Hellfire, is that 4 mana? Yeah, 4 mana deal 3 to all characters instead. Just run Hellfire. It has no prefix on it. It hits your opponent's face. It does hit your face as well, but you're Warlock. You might be able to heal it back off. Warrior, the class that everyone has forgotten about. 1 mana training session. Discover a taunt mini if you play it this turn. Repeat it. Honestly, a pretty fun card. Will be a menace in Arena. In Standard, though, I think it's going to be a pretty weak card. There's not really a super well-rated taunt warrior deck right now. They seem to be going in this direction of like armor and taunt minions for warrior, almost like an attrition type deck. Just grind your opponent down. It's not there yet. 1 star. This isn't going to make it happen. Hookfist 3000, a 3 mana 4/3 mech pirate. After your hero attacks, gain 4 armor and draw a card. There's an obvious place for this to go, and that is a Pirate Warrior. Pirate Warrior has seen better days. It's definitely, dropped down from its heady days where it was a tier 1 deck. I don't know where Pirate Warrior is right now. I don't think it's not tier 1. I don't think it's tier 2 either, so it's probably somewhere in the tier 3. This will definitely be an improvement to it. You do have a lot of weapons in that deck. Eventually, when you can play the Juggernaut, you're going to have weapons on every single turn, in which case you're attacking and drawing a card and gaining 4 armor. It's obnoxious. It will definitely see play in that deck. Will it raise that deck back into, like tier 2 territory? I'm not sure. I'm going to give it 2 stars, but watch this space. Flesh Shaper, 6 mana 3/8 undead, Taunt and Battlecry. If you have 5 more armor, summon a copy of this. Again, the Taunt Warrior I don't think is quite there yet. Gaining 5 armor, there are ways to do it in Warrior. Obviously, it's one of the classes that's pretty good for getting armor. Realistically, though, you'd want to play this on curve. Are you going to be able to keep your armor from the previous turn into turn 6? I'm not convinced. So I'm going to give this 1 star. If some sort of taunt, armor-based, attrition, warrior deck exists, Flesh Shaper might make it, because it is 6 mana for 6/16 in stats. It's a lot of stats for the amount. But I think the prerequisite is going to be a little bit awkward to get off. And then finally we come into the neutral cards. Rivendare War Rider. Death Rattle, shuffle the other 3 horsemen into your deck. Now, I should clarify on this. I was hoping it'd be on this page, to be honest with you. Oh, there they are. The Horse Riders have different effects. They have Lifesteal, Rush, and Taunt. They're all 6 mana 6/6s. And the Death Rattles is, if every other horseman in the game dies, you destroy the opponent hero. So it's another win condition. 1 star. It's so slow. I was just talking about, oh, I'm so worried about Druid, cheating 30 attack out on a charge minion. I was talking about 16 damage to the face from Hunter. I think the world now of taking 4 turns to slowly get your minions to die one after another is just too slow for Hearthstone now. Like, even in an ideal world where you play this on like 6, then 7, then 8, then 9, I'm not convinced it would see play. Now, I know people have been memeing about this, and I'm sure I'll try a meme deck of this, where you put Order in the Court to flip your deck round. Maybe you put in, oh god, why am I so bad with names? Carriel. Maybe you'll put in Carriel into the deck just so you can have a bit more survivability. Paladin can heal itself. And then over the following turns, you play each and every one of these minions, one after the other. Bish bash bosh, you win in 4 turns. Well, you still have a downside, because if this gets silenced, Rivendare, your win condition is gone. If the final one is silenced as well, then you cry, because you don't get the win con either. Because of this, because it's so slow and it's so susceptible to silence, I think it's just a meme. Thaddeus Monstrosity, a 10 mana 11/11. We looked at this earlier. It has Taunt. Your odd cards cost 1. Swatch polarity each turn. This is my sleeper of the expansion. I've seen people giving this 1 stars, 2 stars. Oh, when you play a 10 mana minion out, who cares about you cheating the mana cost out anymore? I've seen people, rating this in a sense that the best thing for it, and I kind of do agree to this, is if you evolve into it, it becomes a 5-star card, because it, cheat everything out from there. And I think this will be a menace for Evolve. But everyone is forgetting one thing. One little tiny thing. Do you remember everyone saying, like, oh, why does this card exist? I'm basically, I'm playing for time right now because I can't remember what it's called. I'm trying to trying to find it rapidly. What the fuck was this card called? Where's my Shaman deck? I'll get there in a second. Flesh Behemoth. That's the card. Everyone's saying Flesh Behemoth's not a great card because there's not a big undead to target with it yet. This is an undead minion, and it's pretty goddamn big. If you cheat this out with Flesh Behemoth, you're gonna cry. I think Thaddeus Monstrosity is gonna go straight into Big Shaman, and I don't think Big Shaman's that bad a deck. If you compare it to my old deck list, which I don't think is the best one, there's definitely a better one out there which doesn't cheat out Stoneborn General with using Bone Lord Frost Whisper. You could put up a huge board and start just cheating out giant minions after giant minions. Imagine getting to your even turn with Thaddeus. So if Thaddeus can live on the board for a turn, and you from the other side, and you Stoneborn General, and you Criminal Lineup, fuck, that is unbelievably scary. Like, I honestly think that deck could be hugely frightening. And bear in mind, you also have Evolve cards in that deck. You might not run Muckpool in it anymore. You might run the new Evolve card, in which case you might be able to cheat Thaddeus out earlier. In which case you might be able to, Thaddeus into... I know this is, like, hugely unlikely, but you could Thaddeus into Behemoth. Then, if you can get another turn later on, you can start cheating out from the other side, the Stoneborn Generals. Like, I think it has such a high roll, a disgusting high roll. I'm going to give it 3 stars. Definitely a 5-star card to evolve into it. I think it is somewhat of a meme. People are talking about running this in Druid as well, which is the other card that, can ramp and then cheat out mana. At some point, I will admit that how much cheating does Druid really need? It might go into that deck, I don't know. But based on, the murmurations and stuff around, especially the card that has mana thirsty 11 in Druid, I think Druid is going to have other ways to cheat cards out. and I'm not sure this would slot straight into there, but I think they're the two places you're most likely to see it. Mistake. It's a 1-mana 1/3 with all of the tribe tags. I've seen people hugely rating this card, giving it like 5 stars, 4 stars. I'm going to give it my first 4 stars of the expansion. I do think this is a really good card. There are some decks out there, especially like aggro ones with undead, stuff like the Undead Death Knight, that would want a 1-mana 1/3 with multi-tribe stuff on it. There, I said it. It's going to be something that is useful for future cards as well. It's just one to watch out for. It's so hard to say, like, this card is great because of this. This card is going to be great because everyone's going to try and put it into a deck if you have, like, those 5 extra cards you don't know what to do with. Mistake might be one of those cards that you just slot into there, especially if you're a tribe-focused deck. And I will say Hearthstone, especially on this mini set, they seem to be focusing more towards cards referencing tribes or referencing, classes of spells. So I think Mistake might even be better in the future than it is now. But like, look at all the cards we've seen before. Mistake could just slot into there. Lost Exarch. 4-mana 5/5 undead. Death Rattle. Spend all your mana. Summon that many 2/2 zombies with Rush. 1 star. Terrible card. It's too slow. You play this on 4 mana. 4 mana. On turn 4 for 4 mana. Your opponent kills it. You get nothing from it. It's a 4-mana 5/4. Great. That's honestly what you're going to get from this. Even later into the game, if you play this at like, if you play this on turn 10 or something and your opponent kills it and you leave your 6 mana, filling your board with 6 2/2 zombies for, 10 mana cost, it's just too slow. It's not worth, the juice not worth the squeeze. If this had Rush, then maybe it would have some sort of use. But I don't think you would see any play. And then finally, a Darkfallen Shadow, a 3-mana 3/3 with Rush, mana 36, gain Reborn. 1 star as well. So, back in the old days, we had the Reckless Mummy, right? Who was was he a 4-mana 3/2, I think, with Rush and Reborn? And that was a really good card because you could rush in, do 3 damage, get the Reborn, and rush it again. And you could, take out some of the early game minions. It was almost like an anti-aggro tech. Darkfallen Shadow has mana 36 on it to get the Reborn. Therefore, it's not good for the early game. It's only good for the later game. And that's going to be too late for it to see any sort of play. Therefore, it will see no play. And that is my ratings for the new mini set. The ones that said, the decks I would watch out for, I think you're going to see a lot more Imp Warlock, and I think you're going to see a lot more Evolve Shaman. They're the 2 big ones. And if a new archetype is going to spring out somewhere or nowhere, it's going to be this no neutral paladin, but has lots of different, just good cards from other tribes, like this Knight of the Dead. And I think that is the deck I'm most looking forward to, and it's probably the deck I'm going to try out on Valentine's Day. Anyway, that's going to do it for this little, little taster for Valentine's Day, for the YouTube side of things. Streamers, I'll play a little bit of Hearthstone, so stay with me. Anyway, thanks YouTubers for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. Goodbye.